But yeah, I was blown away at the negative impacts of pornography in our relationship, because I thought, well, yeah, it's bad and it's a sin, and it impacts me negatively from a health viewpoint. But I didn't think that had pornography had any impact on my mental state. I had
Mm,
no idea the profound impact it I had no idea how numb it made me emotionally, and how
mm,
unpresent I was emotionally to my wife.
mm,
Um, and so there's that. But then also, like, I had no idea the level of damage that it had for my wife.
mm,
For my wife, um, me watching pornography didn't feel like, she was jealous that I was looking at other women, or hurt that I was looking at. For her, it just feels like I cheated on her.
mm,
Um,
Right.
as if I cheated on her with other women. And um, it never got any easier. Every time that I would tell her, "Hey, I've watched pornography again since the High Noon Summit," if I wasn't able to, if I failed in my sobriety, it was never any easier. It never got
Mm.
mm,
like, "Okay, well, you're making progress. I'm just happy that you're honest with me." It was
mm.
always just heartbreakingly devastating. So betrayal trauma is it's like a trauma. It's like
It's
um
like it's symptomatically, it's from what I understand, no different than PTSD,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
that's what I'd
Yeah.
say
Sounds
it's like,
right.
man. Like, it's had this huge impact. And I just kind of realized, like, man, if, well, like, yeah, I needed a lot more than just this when I was younger, to the knowledge of the impact that it would have. I need a lot more than just that. But um I just I was so naive to the effects of pornography. I just thought, like, oh yeah, I know if you keep watching porn, eventually it can affect you with erectile dysfunction. Um, so that sucks, but that's it, right? And it's a sin. But so is eating gummy bears, right? Isn't that like a sin? It's like gluttony, because you don't need gummy bears. They're not nutritious, so you're just eating for the sake of it. So, like, that's a
Yeah.
sin, right? So, like, who cares? It's like sin
I
is
think
so vague.
across the board, not doing anything because it's a sin is the worst. It's the least helpful reason to give anybody. It does not make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta agree with that. Yeah, um, yeah, you gotta do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
this funny song from a comedian. He's like, you shouldn't. It's like from God talking, and God's like, you shouldn't rape people. You shouldn't not rape people because it's a commandment. You just shouldn't rape people. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just a fucked up
Yeah.
thing to do. You just shouldn't do that.
Hmm.
I shouldn't have to write it down as a rule in a book. Like, that's part of the problem. Um, yeah.
This is what I
So
heard about, but it's tangent. But the Ten Commandments. There's like don't have sex with animals, right? And don't murder. And it's exactly that point. Is it's not God wasn't giving commandments out of nowhere. It's like
Hmm.
these are very specific things that people needed instructions on because otherwise they wouldn't know any better.
Right.
yeah,
Right. It's like because this kind of stuff that was going on at the time.
I'm just gonna bring up um, the definition for betrayal trauma, because
Mm,
I feel like I'm not gonna be able to. All right. So betrayal trauma occurs when, oh God, I'm not good at reading. This will be well edited. Make it sound well later. But betrayal trauma occurs when people of institutions on which a person depends for survival significantly violate that person's trust or well being. Childhood, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse perpetrated by the caregiver. Okay, so basically, betrayal trauma is when someone you rely on emotionally violates your trust in the relationship. Okay, so I can make that. I can rephrase that in layman terms. Yeah, so basically, just to clarify, like, what betrayal trauma is for our listeners, for someone, I'm just throwing that term around and not saying what it is, and you're kind of like, what the hell does that mean? Betrayal trauma is basically when someone you deeply trust and love violates your trust and love, either
Mhm.
emotionally or physically. But specifically in this case, we're talking about sexual abuse. And so, where in my relationship, I didn't rape my wife or anything like that to cause the betrayal trauma, but it was the fact that I had been lying to her about our sexuality. Because
Mm.
as a couple, my sexual purity is our sexual purity, because we are connected. And so if I'm watching pornography and masturbating, I'm bringing that into our relationship. And so she was operating with me sexually under the idea that we were mutually exclusive. And for me to be exclusive with her and online is not exclusive. And so
Mm,
that's where that betrayal trauma really deeply came from. And
Makes
um,
sense.
yeah, she has nightmares of me
mm,
cheating on her and or watching
What?
pornography. She, you know, has just I'll say something that'll trigger her and remind her of the fact that I'm a porn user, and it just ruins the moment. It can kill anything. It can send her into
Yeah.
tears or whatever. So it's a really serious thing. And so
Even
I was
now?
like, oh yeah, even now. It's of course we've grown a lot because we
Mhm.
both go to therapy, and we've learned so much to the point that now we're helping other people. But it's still something that it's certainly not as profound as a negative impact, but it still definitely has a negative impact.
mm,
If we're if we're getting close romantically, and I were to say or do something that triggered her, um, then we were no longer getting close romantically in that moment.
mhm,
That's it.
yeah,
That's over. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, it's just, and then the impacts on me as an individual with pornography. Um, Once I was able to get sober, I got 90 days of sobriety. And it was like once I got those 90 days, it was like the fog parted, and I was able to see who I was, and I was able to see my wife, and I was able to connect with her and empathize with her in a way that I never was able to do prior. And it just blew my mind. I was like, I had no idea that this was who I was, because I've spent all this time numb and in the fog,
Mm.
and kind of impersonating someone who loves someone rather than being
mm,
someone who loves someone. Um, it was like I was a caricature of Justin rather than actually Justin.
mm,
Like, yeah, all the parts are there, but it's way overblown and not real.
mhm,
And you know, so it's so much more than just masturbating and looking at pixels on a screen. Um, it has to do with what it does for you. And this addiction, while pornography can be one of the most difficult to get away from, this
Mm.
can manifest in anything, any kind of escapism behavior, whether it be gambling or video games or um, excessive manga reading or whatever.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be pornography, but it's just that pornography hijacks your brain in a way that um, is unique.